Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of Behind the Number, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Allie Russell.
And I'm Carolina Sample.
And we brought on today Baylor Nelson from the Texas A&M men's swim team to just discuss some of the performance pressures, stress, and anxiety that can come on when being a collegiate athlete. And we felt that he was the perfect person. Not only has he played at the high school level, the collegiate level, but also has had some performance when it comes to the Olympic level. So Baylor, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yes, it's so nice to see you and to have you here.
It is. So Baylor is from Charlotte, North Carolina,
Yes,
correct?
I am.
We just found out you have a sister on the team that kind of influenced you coming in here, coming to Texas A&M, excuse me. So I'm just going to read some of his accolades from his transition from high school to the collegiate level. So let me know if I'm wrong, because you have a long list here. Baylor is a little like Michael Phelps in the making, I think. So
Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah, one day you are. I believe
It's
it.
the goal.
So in his senior year of high school, he was ranked number 1 in his class. He also qualified for the second wave of Olympic trials. This past weekend, you guys hosted the SEC tournaments, correct?
Correct.
And he had a really successful weekend. You medaled 3 times,
Yes.
2 golds and 1 silver.
Yes.
Wow, that's crazy.
Amazing.
2 golds.
Yeah.
I know. You PR'd twice, right?
Mm-hmm.
You won co-recipient of the SEC Commissioner's Trophy, and you kind of set some records for the program early on. So you hold the 2nd fastest time in program history currently and the 3rd fastest time in the nation this season in the 200 and 400 IM, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Which also, Carl, give them a little bit of insight on what the commissioner's recipient is.
So the commissioner's recipient is the top time, that's when you get the most points at the meet out of
Correct.
not just your team at Texas A&M, but of all the competitors competing in
Yes,
that weekend, correct?
So as a freshman, literally one of the fastest men in the SEC already.
Yes, earned the most
crazy.
points out of everyone competing in the meet, not just out of his whole team. So little snaps, round of applause
know.
for you, Baylor.
Thank you.
So with all this being kept in mind and all this being said, so a lot of people and a lot of athletes we know, when making that transition from the high school to collegiate level, it can be a little stressful. You can maybe have anxiety coming in from what you've been comfortable with in high school to a new environment in college. But in your case, you've been really successful this year, whereas a lot of freshman athletes usually use their freshman season to kind of get on their feet, feel things out, and kind of mesh better with their team. Your case is a little bit different. You've gotten 2 golds, 1 silver, you're making PRs in all your events. So can you kind of talk to us about how that transition's been for you?
Right. So for me, I always try to make the most of every situation I'm given. So when in high school, when I was swimming club, I was at the same club my whole life. I started there when I was like 6, and then when I left high school, graduated high school, I was still there. So coming here was definitely a little bit of a cultural change, just because I had been used to one place like my whole life. But I think just coming here, having my sister here as well, and then being around this environment for a few years before I actually got here made it a lot easier. And the coaching staff was very welcoming. And then my teammates, I already knew them very well before I got here as well. So that made it a lot better.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's really great. And I also think having like a team environment and a culture that is so welcoming, I do think that it plays a part in helping not only with that transition, English, but it also helps kind of with some of those things that we were talking about, like having confidence and performance kind of helps with some of the stressors and some of the anxiety that can come. So kind of walk us through what in that transition, what that's been like for you. Have there been any moments where you have faced some of those performance pressures or even relied on your teammates who are older and may have had experience in the SEC or just in competition help you with that? Kind of give us a little bit of insight on what that has been like for you.
So coming in, I would say I felt like I had a lot of expectations. Just like coming in as the number 1 recruit, I felt like I had big shoes to fill. And I didn't want to let anyone, like teammates down, family down. So I kind of came in here knowing I needed to do well, but I was up for the challenge. I'm a really big competitor, so if you give me the ball, I'm going to take it and run with it. And I think that's what I did from the moment I got here. I just really trusted like the process the coaches were giving us, and like my teammates were very encouraging. We all worked super hard this year. We're still working hard, but that just made it a whole lot easier, and it helped me like sit back and relax a little bit more,
Yeah.
not be so worried about like the pressure that I felt was on me. So it made the process a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too that you say that. And I think we've kind of talked about this before, but at least for myself, when I came in, I also felt like there were so many expectations that I had to meet and reach. And I had the opposite effect of you. Like because of it, I went like this. Whoa, oopsies. And I had a lot of performance anxiety because of it, so much stress. And it's something that I feel like a lot of people don't fully understand. When you do come to a university and a D1 school like Texas A&M, you more than likely have a lot of expectations on you from your peers, from maybe family, from fans. Like there's so many people looking at you, and it's like, whoa, I have a lot of eyes on me right now and I have to do this. So how do you in those moments keep yourself grounded and are able to be like, okay, like do you have anything that you do maybe before a meet or anything where you're like, you know what, I'm going to let this go, or I'm going to do this to help with that and not to feel those pressures?
Yeah, so I would say I had a lot of people question my decision to come to Texas A&M, so it really made me want to like show why I came here, prove them wrong. But I would just say like before like competitions, I kind of get in my own mental state, stay focused as much as I can, not worry about like the outside factors, just focus on what I need to get done. So whatever that be, like just hanging out with my friends, just relaxing, not trying to think about what I need to do, just getting it done. So I would say that's pretty much what I like to do before like competitions, just stay relaxed, but also stay focused, just have fun with it.
Yeah, that's I feel like staying relaxed and focused, they're like kind of contradicting, but it's very important. And once you can figure out what that balance is for you personally, I think that's really when athletes like really lock in into what they're able to do. And so earlier you talked about the anxieties and pressures on you being the number one recruit and coming in and making sure that you met those expectations. So I was just curious, what are some things that help you, I guess, when maybe your confidence isn't high, or maybe when, because we can't be perfect as athletes every time we go to practice, every time we go to in a game. At least I know for soccer, I don't know if it's any different for swim, but what are some things or people, or how do you cope with those moments where maybe you feel like those expectations weren't met?
I would say parents, teammates, and then God as well. My parents are always supportive of me, like no matter how I do, and they help relax my mind a little bit before competitions. And then my teammates, like even going into SECs this year, like I was extremely nervous going in because I felt like I had big expectations, but they just said that everybody was going to be proud of me regardless of how I did. Like they saw the work I was putting in this season. They knew that I was working hard for it. So no matter how I did, they were going to be proud of me. And then I just like trust God's plan for me. So, I mean, it's not always going to be like a good path you go down at a certain time. So I just got to trust what he has in store for me.
I love that. I love that you're so family oriented. And before we started, you said how your sister is here, and she's older than you, and she kind of influenced your decision into coming to Texas A&M. So has she also been helpful in that aspect and in that area? How's that been for you?
For sure. I mean, just being so far from home, like she's really great to have here. Just if I need to go to her, hang out with her a little bit. I mean, we go to church together every Sunday. So it's nice to have her here. It helps me, I guess, put all my like stress aside when I'm with her because I have a piece of family here. But then, I mean, my parents text me all the time. We call over the phone. It helps bring another like piece of home here as well. So they kind of take my mind off of like all the stress factors I have, like competition and school. So it helps.
Yeah.
Aww,
That's really sweet. I think that's so special. I would love to have had a sister here when I was going through school, because it's being able to be fortunate enough to like rely on your family and have them there as support systems, and especially when things are not easy, because like you're saying, I mean, you trust in God to lead you in whatever path, whether it be high or low, but there are always going to be highs or lows. And so having that support system too is so special. And it's something that I feel like is a part of that grounding. Like they are able to keep you grounded, and I love hearing that, and I think it's really special. And also having a sibling here, not only do you have a sibling here, but you have a sister who's on the same sports team as you, and you guys can kind of have that commonality, if that's a word, I think. But have you guys ever maybe had discussion or like talked about different areas of like anxiety or stress that you guys have been able to kind of have in common, or like
relate to
each other about
together?
Yeah, get through together.
Not that I can think of. I would say I handle stress a little bit better than she does, but or I'm always someone that she can come like talk to about that stuff. She's like one of the hardest workers like I've ever met. Like, I'm not being biased just because she's my sister, but she actually works incredibly hard in the pool at practice, but she doesn't have like the mental side down when it comes to like competitions. So
it's hard.
It is. Like, she's an amazing trainer, but she just can't get the mental part down like at competitions. And if she did, she would be like on a whole nother level. So I've tried to help her with that at times. I mean, we talk over the phone or like in person, and I'll just tell her that just do what you can control and just tell her how relax and have fun. There's times where like she's shown like glimpses of getting over it, but I still think she knows that she has a lot more that she can do. So I'm just trying to help her through that, and same goes with me. She helps me with it as well. She sees that I'm struggling with something mentally before competitions or just in general. Like, she'll reach out to me, help me with that. So it's helpful.
That's awesome.
That's really
you guys
sweet.
can like really lean on each other and be there for each other in the same environment, and not over the phone, but in person, and really share those experience with each other. Just hearing you talking and knowing that you're from out of state, it's your freshman year here, what are some other stressors or anxieties or pressures that you may have experienced or are still navigating to experience or to overcome that are outside of swim and dive, outside of your sport?
For me, I wouldn't say there's much more like stress factors. Like I said, coming here was fairly easy, being so far from home, just because I felt like I had a really big support system with friends, my sister, and then coaches. Like, just before I got here, I always knew that I could depend on them and go to them for anything. So that was really big for me. But I would say if there was one thing, it would just be having my parents so far away. Like, there's times where I miss them a lot. So when they do come and visit, it's a special time, and I really take advantage of the time I get to spend with them. But other than that, I would say there's not many other stress factors, just because I feel like I have a good support system here.
Yeah.
That's good.
And we were talking earlier too. I mean, of course, like we said, we did our research on you. We were doing our stalking, but we were having a conversation, and it's like, really, swim is, like we were saying, it's like track in the water. Like,
definitely.
You're competing for yourself, but you're also competing for a team.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's something that we have never experienced. Like, we are on a big team, we're on a soccer team, we're all competing as a whole, and you have to work as a whole in order to win. Where for you guys, it's both. You have to perform as an individual and as a team. And so give us a little bit of insight first on like what that is like, because that's something I feel like that we don't even have experience in.
Yeah, honestly, it's hard, because I would say, like you said, you're wanting to compete for yourself, but at the same time, you have a team that you're wanting to compete for. And for me, I'm like all in about team. Like, I'm a huge team player. Like, teams goes before myself, like all times. So if I have a great like individual race, but the team like scores or whatever aren't where I'm wanting them to be, I'll get a little bit down, even though I had a great individual race. So the team always comes first. If we have a disappointing relay, I'm always pretty upset, because I want the team to do better. Like, this year at SECs, we had a good shot at winning this year. We knew it was going to be hard. We had to have a pretty great meet in order for it to happen. But if not, like, we knew we could place second. And we ended up getting fourth by like like 20 points from third and then 50 points from second. So it was a really close race. And just at the end of the meet, I remember just being a little bit disappointed with like not only like my performances, but like as a team, I felt like we could have come together a little bit more. There were small details that we missed. Like I wasn't disappointed with the members on my team, but I knew we could have done better, and we've worked harder for that. So for me, I'm definitely a big team player, and I love when the team succeeds more than I love myself succeeding.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I love,
so
yeah.
sweet.
That's very
awesome.
mature.
Yeah,
I
it
feel
is.
like even having that established your freshman year is amazing because it's only going to grow and continue to really evolve as you mature throughout the next 4 years, because that is what's going to happen. You grow tremendously when you're here. And I think that is such a good base to have. And it really shows that you are also humble too. It's like you do want to work, and obviously you want to have success for yourself, but at the end of the day, you're on a team and you want the team to succeed above all. And so I commend you for that, because I'm sure it can be tough also to have the mentality for.
Yeah, being able to differentiate those personal goals and also while also wanting to achieve those team goals. And like Ali said, that's a great mindset to have, especially your freshman year. And it is going to only develop as you go on and as your time goes on. And it's only going to play like another major role in the success that you've already had. So keep that up. That's great. That's great. Okay, so now we are going to take a little break, to hear from our sponsors, Academy Sports and Outdoors. And when we come back, we'll hear more about Baylor's first year here at Texas A&M.
Welcome back. So we just want to jump right into just getting to know Baylor a little bit more. And so, of course, we need to know what the Olympics was like in the trials for the Olympics. And we know that you made it to the Wave 2, which we're not fully sure what that means. They probably don't know what that means. So kind of give us an understanding on what that is and how you got there.
Yeah, so there's obviously qualifying times for Olympic trials. And due to like COVID still being around a little bit, they wanted to divide the meet up into 2 waves. So the first wave had like the original Olympic trial cuts, and the second wave had a little bit faster cuts. So the first wave was the slower of the 2, and then the second wave was like all the like big time Olympians and a little bit harder to reach that wave. So
okay, and so who did you compete against? You said big time Olympians. I'm like, okay. Yeah. Did you race against anyone that you've maybe looked up to when you were a kid or anything like that?
Personally, I did not at the meet, just because my times weren't fast enough to be in their heats, their high of heats. So.
They've had a tremendous amount of experience. Really? You're good. Even to be there is insane.
2024.
Yeah, 2024.
And then tell us how old you were going in, like while completing and going through this experience at the Olympic trials.
So it was summer of my junior year. After my junior year, going into my senior year, and I believe I was 17, about to turn 18.
Oh wow!
That's
and
insane.
So how do you qualify to compete? Like, what do you have to meet, or is it like your times? Is it technique? Like what?
There's just time standards, and you can qualify for the meet at any like sanctioned swim meet. So there's not like a specific meet that you have to qualify for. It can be like just any time before the Olympic trials.
So, then what happens? So say you're swimming in a meet, you get that time. Do you then have to like reach out to anyone, or do they just like, how does that process work?
It doesn't, you don't have to reach out to anyone. They just like, they know you're qualified for it. And then your name gets entered in the meet.
Okay.
And if you, for some reason, don't want to go, you'll just scratch out of the meet.
So they contact you pretty much. And they're like,
so
hey.
it's like an invitation.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Oh,
okay, that's crazy.
Special.
So people are actively looking out for those who are beating these times or making these.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's crazy.
That is
this is something that we're just not familiar with.
I know. We're
at
not
all
educated on
in that degree.
Bringing
like
more awareness.
Yeah.
I had a question about, so as soccer, when we're training and stuff, we focus on technique, like how our touch is or how we shoot the ball. Like, what are some, I guess, technical standards that people look for when you're swimming or diving?
Or,
Like, how does
what a
that look
practice
like?
is
What
like.
what does
Yeah.
that look like in practice?
Yeah, so I would say at a younger age, it's more technique based. You really want to like develop your good technique skills at a young age, so you can transition like later to in college and still have that great technique. So I would say for me, like college level, it's not so much about technique. They really hope that you develop it before getting to
yeah.
college. So college is more about just like volume, intensity levels, and just keeping like a good aerobic base. But obviously, there's still technique work. Like big stuff is like streamlines, and then like underwaters, like especially, and then NCAA like college swimming underwaters play a huge part in like turnout of events, who wins, whatever.
Yeah.
So I would say underwaters is an extremely big factor.
Yeah, so I was telling Baylor before this, I
Here
used
she
to
goes.
swim back in
Go
the
ahead.
day, okay? And when we would be at swim practice, we would have to do like try to go a full lap with holding our breath.
Right.
And that is hard. It's hard. Do you guys do stuff like that? Like what for you is a normal, I can go this distance with holding my breath in the water,
Oh,
which
yeah.
most people could understand that's not easy, but then add on top of it that you're actually working out while doing it.
Right.
Do you guys do that? How far can you get? Like, is that normal for you?
For me, I'm pretty bad at breath control.
Okay.
It's not something I enjoy doing, but it's extremely helpful when it comes to like competition times. So I would say one of the big things our head coach Jay does is we'll do like a bunch of fast efforts, certain distances, probably like anywhere from 100 to 200. And then the last 25 is always no breath. So,
Oh,
I mean, you're out of breath
goodness.
already from like the 75 or 175 before, and then you go no breath the last 25.
is y'all's pool 25 or 50?
It depends what season. So there's 2 seasons of swimming.
Okay.
There's a short course season, a long course season.
Oh.
Wow.
Long course is over the summer. That's 50 meters, and then short course, which is what NCAA is 25 yards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And 50 meters, isn't that more of the Olympic
Yes.
level?
Olympic level is 50 meters.
Okay, so
Look at you.
yeah, see, I have some knowledge. I'm like really pulling it out of the archive back here. I'm like, okay. So when you were at the like Olympic trials or in that wave, were you already used to swimming that kind of distance? Like, had you been training? Obviously, you reached that time, but was that like you'd been training in a 25 meter, or were you used to the 50 meter? Like, what is that kind of difference? Because I know you also have to do your flip when you're in
When
the
you
25
turn?
meter.
When you turn.
Yes, you have to
I saw
flip
that on
underwater.
a movie. I don't know what movie it was, but I saw it and like they would practice it consistently, and then someone went and they didn't do it right and they hit their head, and I was like, I have respect for swimmers
Yeah,
after
it's like
this watching this
timing.
movie, because they actually showed how y'all do it underwater, and I don't know, I've always wondered like how it happens, but when they showed it, I was like, wow, that's actually like more intense than you actually think it is watching
really
from
cool.
outside.
Yeah.
But you can go ahead. That just clicked in my head.
But for me, and I think for everybody else, like I train long course and short course pretty much all year round.
Okay.
So I've always got like some experience of long course before going into a long course season. And I mean, I've been training long course since like right when I started swimming. So like going into the meet, I had a bunch of long course experience. Like I wasn't nervous about that. I'd been training it all year, training it previous however many years I've been swimming. So yeah.
Okay. You seem
I
very
know.
like, I think we said this at over break. Like you are so mature and you seem very confident in your abilities and
very humble,
calm, and collected. When did you start swimming? Like when did you actually start swimming?
I believe I started swimming when I was like 5 or 6. My parents signed me up just for like swim lessons. Just
in like
so,
summer league.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So I started started swim lessons just to get comfortable like around water, and I really liked it. So then they signed me up for like summer league swim team, and I enjoyed that. And one of the coaches there said that we should try. My sister and I should try out for a local club team, Swim Mac. And at the time, like my parents and I had no idea what that was. I mean, I didn't even know that she requested that we join the club. But anyway, my parents looked into it further and we tried out. we made the team, and that's where we were ever since.
The rest is history.
Yep.
Swim Mac.
Yeah.
And
The
there.
birth of Baylor Nelson.
Yeah.
From Swim Mac. Shout out
Swim
to
Mac.
you guys in
That's-
Charlotte. And
that's
so
so
then
funny.
what does like for us training soccer wise, starting at a young age to get to the collegiate level, it's a lot of consistency, a lot of hours putting in and sacrifices. What does
Right.
that training schedule kind of look like for swim? Because it's, I don't know, I feel like it's maybe a little different, but it may
Here,
not be.
I know that
because,
y'all's hours here are
yeah, it's
crazy.
yeah.
At
It's
least.
it's really challenging. I would say high school. I would say I trained more here, but high school training was still difficult. Especially my senior year, I was swimming 7 days a week,
Oh wow.
so I never got like a day
Weekends.
off. Like there'd be like six straight weeks where I go without a day off. So it was really challenging. Like 3 hour practices, like doubles 2 or 3 times a week. So it's hard, but swimming's a sport where if you're out of the water for more than like a day, you kind of lose feel. So me personally, I don't like to be out for more than a day, just because, like I said, I lose feeling of the water, and
So
I come back
interesting.
to practice and you don't feel very great. You don't perform well at practice. So
wow.
So
I
here
did not know
now,
that.
do you say you're not in season, or anytime, have you experienced any time where you did not have to go swim on the weekends and you've chose to? Or is that like a part of your routine? You like to be
Yeah, is
7
that,
days
like-
a week in the water?
yeah, so we swim Monday through Saturday, due to like NCAA.
Oh, so y'all's team does
Yeah,
Saturday
we
too.
swim
Okay.
Monday through Saturday, and obviously we have like the 20-hour training
Weeks.
limit.
Right.
But sometimes I would say I've taken it up over the past couple of weeks, the past month. There's a couple of guys that will go on their own on Sundays, just do like a quick 20 to 30 minute swim. So you can get in the water and not feel as crappy on Monday
Yeah.
morning at practice. So it's something that I've taken up just because I don't like going to Monday morning practice and not feeling
Yeah.
very great. not
What
having
is
a great
that like? Like,
practice.
what's that feeling like?
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it like a full I mean, in recovery wise, is it like a full body like pain,
Like a
It's
It's
just
like
soreness?
you are in the best shape of your life when you
Right.
swim.
yeah.
The
But soccer, I
best.
feel like we're always sore.
Yes,
on
always sore on our legs.
and because
Where I'm
that's
like,
what
ooh,
we use the most.
Sunday, yeah, I'm gonna kick my feet back and relax. So what is like? What is kind of like that fatigue or that different feeling on a Monday if you don't go in
Train
the
on
pool
a
on a
Sunday.
Sunday?
Yeah.
It's weird to explain, to be honest. I would say it's just like you feel you just feel tired. I would say your muscles feel tired and feel like they aren't like super fast twitch. They're a little just like slow. It's not like you're sore or anything. It's just your muscles feel slow and they're just not like in tune with your body. Your strokes feel a little bit off. You're not like your body is not as centered. It's
That's
kinda
so
weird.
interesting.
That is
It's not weird at
interesting.
all. It's just
It
super
makes sense.
interesting.
I feel like it has something to do with like science, but I'm not
Yeah.
a scientist, so
totally-
that sounds
Me
it sounds
either.
logical. So I'm not gonna go into that because I don't know much about science, but it does make sense.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why that consistency of water, because I don't know. I'm trying to think of like when I go swimming. Not
And
the
y'all,
same.
we were talking about this earlier. We're like, we have like a kind of some random questions about swimming.
Yeah.
So y'all's pool is cold. It's not heated, or is it heated?
Correct.
So it's cold.
Except this past, right after SECs, like the heater broke, pool was freezing.
Oh,
for,
so it's
like,
normally
5
heated.
days. It's heated. It's like 78,
Okay.
78, but the pool was like 74 those 5 days, and it was horrible. And for me personally, I do terrible in cold water,
I was gonna say
just
does
because
that
like
affect-
I'm not super big. I don't have like a large amount of body fat, so when the pool's cold, I typically get super cold and can't warm up very much. So, but they
That's so
fixed it, so
interesting.
now it's back to normal.
So is that a
Good.
consistency that a lot of schools have? Is like keeping the water at a certain temperature?
Yes,
okay.
yeah. So they
Okay.
got. I think it's always. I know NCAA like regulation temperature for swim meets is anywhere from I think low like 78 to 79 and a half. So it's pretty specific, like what temperature we have to be racing at.
Okay.
Okay.
And what is I really love asking these questions because I also feel like we don't have much knowledge on what the world is like for you guys when it comes to swim meets, practice, and that's something that I wish we did know more of. So I'm really glad that we're having this conversation because it's really insightful. And with that, what is a meet like for you guys? Like, how long is that? What is preparation like for it? What's the fan base like at meets? Like, what is that like for you guys?
Yeah, so it really depends where we're at in the season. I would say dual meets tend to last anywhere from like 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours. So those aren't like super long, and those are just like a timed finals session.
What is dual?
It's just like two teams competing against
Okay,
each other.
got it.
But then when you get to like championship season, like SECs or NCAAs, and dual meets are also just one day.
Okay.
But when you get to championship season, like SECs is a 5-day meet, NCAAs is a 4-day meet. So those are much longer, and you have prelims and final sessions. So you'll swim in the morning and night based off if you make it back, qualify for the final session.
So the same races just happen all again.
Yes, yeah. So
That's
there's
so
different
interesting.
event lineups each day, and they'll have the prelim session, and then if you qualify for finals, those swimmers will swim the same race again that night.
So
And
it really
so-
is kind of like track.
Yeah.
Like how they do track with the
Yes,
heats.
yeah.
And do
everything,
you, when you're
qualifying.
there, are you just like locked in there the whole day? Do you go and
So
take some breaks or?
prelims tend to last about, like, I'm usually there for only like 2 hours, I would say.
Okay.
So it's not super bad, and then I'll have time to go back home and rest for like 3, 4, 5 hours before the final session. So I mean, I'll just like do some recovery stuff, take a nap, eat lunch and stuff like that. Then we'll go back to finals, and then that'll take anywhere from 2 to 3 hours as well. So
Okay.
it's a pretty long day, and especially
Very
like
long
a
day.
5-day meet, it's pretty tolling.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
Exhausting,
honestly
but- I
can't
know.
imagine.
I know. I'm like,
Our games are 2 hours long. We get there an hour and a half before, an
Yeah.
hour before warm up, and then as soon as the game's done,
we're
out. So it's
And
so
it's done.
it's so interesting, and it's crazy that they can carry on for for multiple days. And
Yeah.
it's kind of funny because I've seen during the SEC championship, I was seeing people walking around in like Alabama stuff,
Yeah.
and like all these, and I'm like, what are they doing here?
Yeah.
But then again, here we go,
Right.
SECs. That's really cool, and that's super interesting because it's so different. I feel like the dynamics of sports teams are so different in regard to competition. So it's
Is
really
it-
interesting.
I had it like in terms of nutrition and preparation for meets or tournaments. Like I know I'm kind of picky about what I eat before I have a game, or when I used to run track, I would try to eat foods that would keep me light, but also
Right.
filling. Like, do you have any specific nutrition things that you follow when preparing for a meet or anything like that
I
that
would
can affect
say-
your swim performance?
Yeah, I would say I don't really follow much of anything. I do cut out like sweets, like desserts, sugars for the majority of the year, just because like it makes my body feel better. I just feel like a little bit cleaner and healthier. So I take that out of my diet for the majority of the year. But before like competitions or meets, I would say I normally try to eat the same thing I normally would eat, just because I don't want to like throw my body off. I just
Yeah.
want to
Mhm.
eat what I'm used to eating.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, we were talking so much about consistency, and
Yeah.
before soccer, I know they're like carb load,
Right.
because it's so much
Yes.
cardio
and we have like
running
specific
and,
team meals where
yeah,
we eat
where they
certain stuff.
feed us so
Yeah.
much food. So I didn't know, because you were just saying the consistency of practicing. So I didn't know if food or anything like that affected you guys.
I
as
mean,
well.
obviously, I'm still like looking to get like carbs and protein in,
Yeah.
but I would say I'm not like too worried about if I'm getting the right stuff in. I'm not worried about what like type of food it is, as long as I'm getting like the carbs and protein there. Like, I'll get one of my like favorite pre-meet meals or like pre-finals meals, like just Chipotle. 'Cause, like I eat it all the
Chipotle.
time, and like I can get like the protein, and
Yeah.
the carbs and calories out of
Right.
that. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
I have
know that.
I have a question that I've been thinking about too that I wanted to ask you, and we're kind of taking a
No, you're good.
taking
another-
a turn. But I also know, and your answer may vary because different sports teams have different numbers of fans. We're fortunate enough that on women's soccer, we have a good amount of fans, and we're really lucky that the 12th man shows up and comes and supports. But for swimming, what is that fan base like for you guys? And then also, do those fans have an effect on your performance, or like some of those pressures or potential anxiety or stressors that you do feel? Kind of a two-way question, but run us through a little bit of like what that fan base life is for you guys.
For sure. I would say fans definitely have an impact on performance for us as swimmers, especially me. Like dual meet season, there's not many people that like come out to watch like our competitions. So it's a little bit of a bummer that like not many people come to watch, but I understand like not many people know much about swimming or care much of it, which I hope that people will soon care more about it.
This podcast
I
is
was
going
gonna
to
say,
change.
after this, they
Hopefully
definitely will.
change
You're gonna have
their
a whole fan
ways.
club.
But come championship season, like at SECs, the place was sold out. The rec was
that's
sold out like every
amazing.
single night.
That's
so
great.
there was so many people there, and like, it was extremely loud in there, which really builds up the intensity like in the building, and everybody knows that they just have to perform that much
Yeah.
better, just because like they know that there's so many people like watching them, counting on them. So
Yes, it completely
helpful.
changes the
I was gonna
atmosphere.
say,
sure, for
fans
sure.
have like
A
played such a big role when it
huge,
comes to sports, no
huge
matter what
role.
level you're at.
it just
I feel
creates like such a much better energy that
Yes.
you're wanting to compete.
And when
under.
you're performing, like for you, when you're in the pool, when we're on the field, when you hear people,
for sure,
you're like, oh, this is exciting.
Yeah.
It's just like, it really is a game
it
changer.
like feeds your
Right.
competitiveness. for
Yes.
sure. Yeah.
And I think that it's one, even I've never been to a swim meet. I now want to go because one, got to come support Baylor. And then also it's nice having like being able to gain insight on what it actually is like. And so I think that that's really great to kind of make people aware of.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
yeah.
That's a good point. Okay, so with all of this being said, all the knowledge you've just given us on swim and your freshman year here, we always ask our guests this question. If you could put your collegiate experience this far into a cheesy tagline or anything, what would it be?
I would say this comes from my head coach, Jay Holmes. He always says it, and it's one of my favorite quotes from him. It would have to be, don't be afraid to want it.
Don't be
I
afraid to
love
want it.
that.
How does that apply to your experience?
Just because, like, he always tells us, this is another thing he always says is, like, who wants the ball? So we'll have a competition or a meet or just in practice. He's like, who wants it? Which means, like, who's ready to step up and do something for the team, do something great. So it's something that I really like because, like I said, I'm a really big competitor and I hate to lose. So, I mean, even if you don't feel like you have the best chance to win or perform up to your liking, like you should never be afraid to go out there and do your best and give your best, and like no matter who you're going up against, just like don't be afraid to want it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
Okay,
I
that's
feel like
nice. I like that
every
one.
single person who's given one of these
Yes.
taglines has inspired me. And I'm like, wow, I feel like now I can think about this in my daily life. Like they're really great. And I love that.
Yeah, I agree. That's like one of my favorite questions to
Yeah.
ask. And so off of that, do you have anything else that you want to say or you want viewers to know about you or want us to know that you want to speak to?
Just come out and support the Aggie swim and dive team in the next coming years.
Yes.
We definitely will.
Yeah, we will.
You got a
You
fan
got- yeah,
club
you
with
have two
us too,
fans
at
right
least,
here.
for sure. So I'm just excited to see how you grow because you're just so great right now. And I just know that you're going to have a successful future.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, of course. So with that being said, it's been a pleasure getting to know you.
Yes.
And
Beautiful.
thank you for coming on the show with us today and providing us with a little bit more insight about you and about Swim and Dive and letting us know. I guess you guys don't have numbers, but behind the goggles.
The goggles and the swim cap.
Behind the
Yeah.
goggles and swim cap of Baylor. So,
Well, thank you guys for having me.
of course,
Yes, of course.
thank you. And so this has been another episode of Behind the Number brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. And we will see you guys next week.